Training camp is nearly here. Now, first off, yes, not in my studio visiting family, so I have to apologize for the fan-looking thing behind me. But my stepmom, love her to death, but she buys things like that, and a lot of clocks. Clocks, you saw that in the last episode I did from my parents' house. I know, no, I'm not still living in their basement and drinking Mountain Dew and playing Call of Duty until 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just visiting, and very happy to do so. But the clocks, they drive me nuts. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. We're talking about five names and basically five therefore positions or more to watch for the Raiders during training camp. And there's a lot. There's a lot that's going to go on in this training camp. I also do apologize. I don't have my microphone with me, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I know it's not the best, but we're making do with what we can. So I appreciate your guys' patience as we move forward here. So really the name number one that I really want to take a look at, and really the position number one, is talking about offensive line. We'll get into it in just a second, but it's really important to note that there's a lot of things going on with this particular Raiders team in terms of some of the different positions that we are looking at, and some of the different players. So I'm pretty excited. I think there is really going to be a huge emphasis on the offensive line, which I think is possibly, I don't think it's the weakest spot on the team. There's just a lot of inconsistencies, particularly in the middle. So that's why the name number one, in really position number one, is Dylan Parham. Now, Dylan Parham, third round pick coming up. I believe, what is it, out of Memphis? I can't remember off the top. It's Memphis or Kentucky. I always get their uniforms mixed up. But Dylan Parham, stud. I think he could be the team's starting right guard or left guard. Doesn't matter. In fact, we have seen reports that it really hasn't gone according to plan for Denzel Good in terms of his ACL. But I think he's actually going to be back. I think he's going to be looking pretty good. So you got a stacked offense. Really, the question is what will go on for this offensive line. Will Dylan Parham step up? I think him and Andre James should both be on the field at the same time. I don't care who starts at center, make it happen. Dylan Parham needs to be in the mix, though. Again, I just feel like at the end of the day, when you look how special this offense could be, there's a lot of different things going on in this offensive line. Colt Miller is a solid player, should be an All-Pro, make a Pro Bowl, and receive some All-Pro votes this next year. Alex Leatherwood, what's going to go on with him? Is he going to play a guard, tackle? Obviously, he and Brandon Parker are splitting reps at right tackle. That's the biggest thing we took away from OTA. So definitely going to be something to watch. It's the offensive lineman, and Dylan Parham is going to be a big piece of that, particularly with what we see with the Raiders' offensive line and what it could be. Name and really position group number two that we're taking a look at. Every wide receiver that's competing for the number three wide receiver spot. So, Keelan Cole, Demarcus Robinson, Tyrone Johnson. There's so many names that are in this conversation for wide receivers that are competing for that number three spot. Matt Collins, Dylan Stoner, Justin Hall, Jordan Veazey, all these guys that are competing for that number three wide receiver spot that you really need to keep an eye on, because I do think whoever separates themselves in camp, they will get the opportunity. They're the ones that are going to get the nod, opposite or inside of Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. Plus, you got all those weapons at tight end as well. Running back Josh Jacobs is back. Zamir White's probably going to take a little bit before he's actually getting significant time. Josh Jacobs is going to be that bell cow running back for at least one more year with the Raiders. Name number three that I really think that fans really need to keep an eye on is defensive lineman, defensive end, Zach Van Valkenburg. Try saying that three times really fast. So, the thing about Zach V is, coming up out of Iowa, the former Hawkeye, really showed a lot to a lot of different people. I'm excited for him, and excited to see what he's going to do, particularly with, in a defensive line like this. He had 5.5 sacks last year for the Hawkeyes, and it's going to be interesting. I know it's a 4-3. It's not a 3-4. I know they're going to be doing a lot of base fronts out of a 3-4, but I like looking at a 4-3 when talking about personnel. It just makes it easier, but I will put up a depth chart talking about the 3-4 as well. So please just take a breath and bear with me for a second. We're talking about generic positions for now out of a 4-3, because we know Patrick Graham will use a 4-3 when he has to, so this is just easier for me when we talk about all these different guys, because really the difference between a 4-3 and a 3-4 is you're taking out slower, more run effective, or maybe even pass rushing defensive ends, and you're putting them as outside linebackers, and you're having those bigger defensive tackles play that 5-tech for you, take up double teams that do that kind of thing. So you see Zach Van Valkenburg here at that, third string defensive end spot. He's probably going to look to play some second team. Cleveland Farrell might play a little bit of inside. So I think Zach Van Valkenburg is going to find a way, because, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones are arguably the best edge rushing duo in the entire NFL, but I think they're going to need somebody that's going to need to step up, and I think it's going to be a guy like Zach Van Valkenburg that can do a lot of things. Malcolm Kuntz is definitely another name to watch for because he's going to be an absolute stud. He played like 17 snaps and had 2 sacks last year, so he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then, name number 4 coming out of this defense, and you guys will see him on this depth chart, Rock Ya-Sin. That's right, cornerback Rock Ya-Sin. I'm excited for Rock Ya-Sin because he had, let's say, an up and down career with the Colts. That's what we'll call it, because there was a lot of different things going on in that room, and obviously a former second round pick, expectations were high. But now you got this defense that's got all these different pieces. You've got 50% of it locked down in safety, Tre'von Moehrig, and a guy like Nate Hobbs playing that cornerback position on the inside, or nickel cornerback, if you will. Opposite that, Trayvon Mullen Jr., what's going to happen on that end? But Rock Ya-Sin has a legitimate chance to be able to come back and do a lot of different things. And potentially, he's got a chance here to make a name for himself as that starting cornerback for the Raiders. And I think he's got a real big chance to salvage his career because he's been serviceable, but I mean, there's still a lot of untapped potential that I do feel like he could find with the Raiders. And it's definitely something to look out for. Name and position, really, number 5 to look out for during Raiders training camp. Neil Farrell Jr. in that defensive tackle group. We've covered it. You've got Matthew Butler, you've got Jonathan Hankins, you've got Bilal Nichols in the middle there. You got all these different guys that are competing for that defensive tackle time. Neil Farrell Jr. I'm going to say it. I've already said it a couple times. He is a name you have to watch out for, and I think he is going to be a guy. He showed a lot during the Senior Bowl and his time at LSU that he can be that guy that is coming in as a 4th-round pick. I believe he can start this year. It really depends on what happens with Jonathan Hankins. Will Jonathan Hankins step up? I don't know. I think that's why they drafted Neil Farrell Jr. to be kind of an insurance policy because I think there's a lot of things you got to be excited about for the former Tiger. I think he could definitely make some noise. It was already starting to make some noise. During the Senior Bowl and with the Raiders during minicamp and OTA. So I'm really excited about Neil Farrell Jr. I think he's going to be a guy that takes up those double teams, plays a little bit of 5 tech as well, and can get after the quarterback and stop the run. Yeah, that's I think that's something. And the last player that I think you really need to take, or position that you really need to take a look at heading into Raiders training camp. But that's it. Those are 5 names and kind of positions that we talk about to watch for during Las Vegas Raiders training camp. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below, all that funny jazz. Also, remember to give us a listen and sub on iTunes. And finally, if you have anything else you'd like us to cover, send us an email at thesportsbp@yahoo.com or put in the comment section down below, and we would love to cover it. But let us know what you guys think about the 5 names to watch during Las Vegas Raiders training camp.